Chapter 3. Are you ready to play, Henry?
Mr. Williams turned to the bank staff and said,
"Please continue to work as normal. There's nothing to worry about."
Everyone looked surprised. How could they work without computers? It would be impossible. No one moved and no one spoke. Mr. Williams repeated his message.
"Back to work now, please. Our clients will arrive soon, and we must be ready."
As his staff slowly began to return to work, the bank manager sat down in front of the server. Belinda stood next to him. Mr. Williams looked at the screen. He was now extremely worried. He hesitated for a moment. Belinda thought he was in difficulty and she wanted to help.
"You have to click on the email icon in the corner of the screen,"
she said.
I know, I'm not completely stupid."
Her boss shouted. Some members of staff looked at one another and smiled. Belinda knew Mr. Williams well. She knew that when he was angry, as he was now, it was better to say nothing. She watched silently as he clicked on the icon. The mailbox appeared and revealed the subject of the new message.
"Are you ready to play, Henry Williams?"
Yes, he was ready. He had no idea who had sent the email, but he wanted an explanation and an end to this situation. He opened the message, and the screen filled with words.
"Hello, Henry. How are you today? Happy? Or maybe worried? Or even angry? I haven't seen you for a long time, but I can tell you that I am very, very annoyed with you. You are not my favorite person. How many enemies do you have? At least one. Me. I am going to make you pay for what you did to me before. As you know, I have entered your new and secure computer system, and guess what? It's my system now. It was so easy to discover the passwords. You should be more careful, Henry. You don't mind if I call you Henry, do you?"
Mr. Williams was definitely angry now, and confused. He asked Belinda,
"Who is this person? What does he want? Or maybe it's a woman. Why is he or she angry? I'm an honest and respectable man, and people like me. Well, most people. Isn't that true, Belinda?"
He turned to look at Belinda, hoping she would give him the answer he wanted to hear. But she wasn't listening. She was reading the rest of the message as it appeared.
"I have changed all the passwords, so now I control everything in your bank. Be nice to me, or I will lock the door again, or perhaps I'll do something much worse. But don't be afraid. I know that you're an intelligent, man, Henry, so I am going to give you a chance to save your precious bank. We are going to play a game. If you win, the bank will be saved. If you lose, the bank will be destroyed. Do you like my idea? I think it's great. It means that the fate of the bank, your bank, is in your own hands. So, Henry, my friend, are you ready to play?"
Chapter 4. Don't call the police.
It was very noisy in the bank. Clients were arriving and the staff had to tell them that there was a problem with the computers. Some clients left immediately. Some were angry and began to shout. Others wanted to see the manager. But Mr. Williams had no time to speak to anyone. He had a problem too, a big problem. 2 members of his staff had moved the server to his office. It was much quieter in there, and he could think without anyone disturbing him. Belinda was sitting next to him. She was beginning to panic, and when she felt like that, she couldn't stop talking.
"What a horrible man. I'm sure it's a man. He's so evil. What are you going to do, Mr. Williams? What a terrible situation. I want to help you, but I just don't know what to do. Shall we call the police? I'm sure—"
Mr. Williams couldn't concentrate. His secretary was talking faster and faster.
"Belinda, why don't you go and make me a nice cup of tea?"
Belinda smiled brightly and went out of the office. A nice cup of tea was the solution to all problems, in her opinion. So, undisturbed, Mr. Williams was able to read the final part of the mysterious email.
This is the game. I will send you 3 puzzles, one at a time. You must solve these puzzles in just 4 hours. That's plenty of time for an intelligent man like you, Henry. You'll probably need to be a computer expert to solve them. But you use computers every day, don't you? Ha ha! If you fail to solve all 3 puzzles, I will empty every bank account in your bank, from the smallest to the largest. All the money will disappear and your bank will be destroyed. One final thing, don't call the police. That would be very stupid. If you call the police, I will know. Remember that I can destroy your bank in a few seconds. Don't risk it, Henry. Do you think this is all a joke? I want to show you that I am very serious. Henry, do you know how much money you have in your bank account? Are you sure? Why don't you check? I think you'll be surprised. Now I am going to give your staff access to the computers so the bank can function as normal. You see, I'm not so evil. But remember that I can switch off the computers or change anything at any time. Bye for now, but don't worry. I'll be back soon.
Mr. Williams sat back in his chair. He had a bad headache. Things were not improving. He was thinking about what to do when he heard shouts of joy coming from the bank staff downstairs.
Hey! Hey! Oh, thank goodness!
The door opened and Belinda came in with the tea.
The computers are working again, Mr. Williams. Isn't that wonderful? Everything is back to normal. Maybe the email was just a joke.
Well, we'll know in a moment, Belinda,
He replied. There were 2 things that Mr. Williams could do on a computer: use email and access his own bank account. Why did the mystery hacker tell him to check his account? He put in his password and then his account number and waited. After a few seconds, the information he wanted appeared on the screen.
Chapter 5. Puzzle number 1.
Mr. Williams stared at the computer screen, horrified. His bank account was empty. The bank manager quickly closed the page, but Belinda had already seen it. She dropped her cup of tea and began to cry. Before Henry Williams could say a word, another message appeared on the screen.
Email arriving for Henry Williams. Puzzle number 1.
Mr. Williams clicked to open the message and looked at the first puzzle. There were just a few words, and lots of strange symbols and abbreviations. It's 9:15 and time to play. W.U., Henry. I see that you are... Symbol. Y. You can't see me. You are... Symbol. But I am... Symbol. I-M-O. You are... Symbol. C. Or perhaps... Symbol. T-A-F-N. I'll B-B-L. E-O-M, hand, bracket, L-O-L, bracket. Henry, do you like the first puzzle? Isn't it cool, cool and wicked? The clock has started to tick. Hurry, hurry, hurry. B-F-N, symbol. Mr. Williams didn't understand anything. He looked at Belinda, who was still crying.
Belinda, please stop crying for just 1 minute and call Mike. Tell him to come here at once. We need his help.
She looked at him in amazement and replied,
But, Mr. Williams, you sacked Mike about an hour ago. Don't you remember?
Yes, now he did remember. There was no one to help him. His headache was getting worse. He couldn't think. Then Belinda's voice came from behind his chair.
Why don't you call your son, Robbie? He's very good with computers, isn't he?
Mr. Williams got up and hugged her.
Yes, Belinda, you're fantastic. Why didn't I think of that?
It was a school holiday, so Robbie would be in his bedroom, playing on the computer and listening to music, but definitely not studying. It was rare to see an open textbook in that bedroom. There were two things Mr. Williams always associated with his son, his mobile phone and his baseball cap. Mr. Williams picked up the phone and dialed his home number.
Robbie, this is your father. Listen, I have a problem with the computers at the bank. Can you come and help me? I don't care if you're fighting Lara Croft. This is really important. Come as soon as possible, please. Thank you.
Mr. Williams put down the phone and smiled.
That was a great idea of yours, Belinda. Robbie's a teenager, so I'm sure he'll understand all the strange symbols and abbreviations in the puzzle.
Belinda blushed.
If I could make another suggestion, Mr. Williams, I think you can see where the email came from. Look at the top of the page.
She was right.
Well done again, Belinda. It was sent from the local library. So our mystery hacker thinks he's clever, does he?
Mr. Williams picked up the phone again. This time he called the security office. He explained the situation and told the head of security to send 2 guards to the library to find and arrest the hacker. He was feeling a little bit better, and Belinda had stopped crying. Then he noticed something appear on the computer screen. It was a clock icon and an hourglass. 15 minutes had already passed, and the sand was falling. The countdown had begun.
Chapter 6. Trouble in the Library.
It was only 9:30, but there were already a lot of people inside the library. Some were looking for a bestseller on the bookshelves, others were reading the newspapers or books in the study area, and a few were using the photocopying machine and the computers. A man was reading the messages on a big notice board. A mother and her child were going upstairs to the children's section. A librarian was pushing a trolley of books. It was very quiet. In the library, anyone who had to speak spoke quietly. The librarians were there to help anyone who had a problem. This was the scene when Bill and Ben, the 2 security guards from the bank, arrived to investigate. They walked to the desk where a librarian was helping an old lady. "We believe that a criminal has sent an email message from a computer in this library, and we want to see the list of people who have used the internet this morning," said Bill. The librarian calmly replied,
"I'm sorry, but I'm busy now. If you would like to wait, I'll be happy to help you as soon as I can."
Ben was not a patient man.
I don't think you understand, madam. We are here to arrest a criminal, and we want to do it now,
he shouted. The old lady who was in front of Ben was angry, and she hit both guards with a handbag.
"Hey, I was here first. You are very rude men,"
she said. The librarian tried to calm everyone down. She said to the men,
"Please don't shout. This is a library. I'm afraid we can only give information about the people who use our library to the police. Are you policemen?"
Bill replied, "No, we're security guards from the bank on London Road, and we—" The librarian interrupted him.
"Then I can't help you. Now, will you please leave the library?"
But the men didn't want to leave. Bill had an idea. "Hey, Ben, maybe the hacker's still using the computer. Let's go and see." They ran to the computer area and began to question the 4 people who were using the computers. Now, everyone in the library, including the librarians, came to watch. The guards were shouting, and the people at the computers were frightened. Mr. Page, the head librarian, came out of his office to see why there was all this noise in his usually quiet library. The scene he saw shocked him. He walked to the computer area and demanded to know what was happening. About 20 people answered him at the same time, so it was impossible to understand. But he soon realized that the 2 men dressed in blue uniforms were causing the problem and were disturbing everyone. He shouted,
You 2, get out of my library now.
And with the help of some people in the library, he pushed them to the door and then out of the library into the street.
And don't come back.
Yelled the old lady furiously. All the people in the library were talking about what had just happened. Nobody noticed a man who was hiding behind the shelves. He was laughing.
Chapter 7. Robbie the Hero.
Robbie Williams arrived at the bank a few minutes after the phone conversation with his father. He wasn't very happy. It was the school holidays, and he wanted to go out with his friends, but his mother told him at least 10 times a day to open a textbook and study. Today he had wanted to buy a new football scarf and a computer game, but instead he had to help his father at the bank. He went inside and up the stairs to the office.
Hey, Dad, what's up? I have to meet my friends at the shopping centre at lunchtime. I'm going to buy a new computer game. It's wicked. It's called...
Mr. Williams interrupted his son.
Robbie, please take those headphones off and listen to me.
He quickly explained the problem of the hacker. Robbie couldn't believe it.
Bad luck, Dad. How can I help?
Mr. Williams showed him the first puzzle. Robbie gave his father a big smile.
Relax, Dad. This is so easy I can do it with my eyes shut. I use these abbreviations every day when I'm in a chat room or when I text my friends on my mobile phone. I'll show you. WU stands for What's Up? IC stands for I see. And these symbols are called emoticons. They look like a face and they express the way you feel. I can easily decode this message for you.
Robbie sat down, clicked on the reply icon and wrote out the message.
What's up, Henry? I see you are sad. Why? You can't see me. You are sad, but I am angry. In my opinion, you are surprised, or perhaps afraid. That's all for now. I'll be back later. End of message. Have a nice day. Laughing out loud. Bye for now.
See? I told you it was easy. Now I'll click on Send, and the message will go back to the sender.
Mr. Williams thanked his son, and slowly he began to relax. But for how long? It was now 10:15. Only 1 hour had passed. Belinda came into the office and said to her boss,
The ATM is working again.
Mr. Williams smiled.
But
She added quickly.
it's giving the customers too much money.
Mr. Williams fell back into his chair. Why was life so difficult? The security guards Bill and Ben knocked at the door and came into his office. Did they have some good news for him?
Well,
He asked hopefully.
did you find him?
Bill answered, Not exactly, Mr. Williams. We tried, but the people at the library were very unfriendly.
Yes,
Added Ben.
they didn't want to help us, and in the end, they asked us to leave. There was an old lady who...
Mr. Williams was angry.
I'm not interested in the old lady. You obviously didn't catch the hacker. You are both completely incompetent. Now go back to your office before I sack you.
His headache had returned, worse than ever. Then his son said,
Dad, look. There's another message from the hacker.
He looked at Robbie and then at Belinda. Then they all looked at the screen.
Chapter 8. My name is Trentine.
Hello, Henry. Well, that was an easy puzzle. I imagine someone helped you. Your son Robbie, perhaps. He's intelligent, but your security guards are really stupid. They didn't see me at the library, but I saw them. Never mind. Maybe they'll have better luck next time. Here's your second puzzle. Impossible, I think. Have fun. BFN. Puzzle number 2. My name is Trentine. I am power and knowledge. These are my friends. Barrows, Lemia, Rodlower, Ediwa, Bill, Tak, Morrow, Ross.
Henry Williams wasn't very worried. He had his secret weapon, Robbie.
You can solve this puzzle too, can't you, Robbie?
He asked. Then he saw his son's face.
Dad, I'm really sorry, but I don't understand it. But look, the hacker sent it from the internet cafe in the city centre.
Belinda was crying again. Mr. Williams phoned the security office for the second time that day and told Bill and Ben to go to the internet cafe to find the hacker. As soon as he put down the phone, a bank teller came into his office with more bad news.
A customer has just told me that the bank's website is advertising a special offer. A credit card with 0% interest. Is it true?
He asked.
Of course it isn't!
Yelled Mr. Williams.
Don't give any new credit cards to any of our customers. Now go back to work!
The teller disappeared. The minutes became hours, and Mr. Williams became more and more agitated. Robbie continued to look at the puzzle, perplexed. And Belinda continued to cry. Suddenly, Robbie had an idea.
I know what to do,
he shouted. His father jumped up.
Have you solved the puzzle?
He asked.
No, but I bet my friend Joe can help us. I'll send him a text message on his mobile.
Mr. Williams sat down again while Robbie sent the message.
Come to bank now. Rob.
When Joe arrived, it was already 5 o'clock.
What's up, Robbie?
He asked. Then he saw Belinda, who smiled at him. He smiled back. Wow, she was beautiful. He immediately fell in love with her. Joe, listen to me, said Robbie. He explained about the hacker and showed Joe the second puzzle. Joe didn't want to take his eyes off Belinda, but he had to look at the computer screen. Mr. Williams was beginning to panic.
Hurry, boys, there isn't much time left.
Take it easy, Mr. W. We can solve this. Come on, Robbie, let's do it.
After 4 long hours, they solved the puzzle.
So, who is Trentine?
Asked Mr. Williams.
The internet,
replied Joe.
Of course,
said Robbie.
And the friends are all words connected with the internet. Browser, email, World Wide Web, chat room, and...
Surf,
said Belinda happily. Joe looked at her.
Belinda, you are so cool. You're the perfect girl for me,
he said as he clicked on the send icon. Mr. Williams looked at them and said to himself,
What are they talking about? I think I'm getting old.
It was 9 o'clock. The hourglass was half empty, but they had solved the puzzle in time. Mr. Williams was very relieved. The situation was improving at last. At that moment, the telephone rang. When Mr. Williams answered, he heard a voice say,
Good evening. This is the police.
Chapter 9. A surprise for Henry.
Mr. Williams put down the phone. He said,
That was the police. It seems that Bill and Ben created a disturbance at the internet cafe and they have been arrested. They didn't catch the hacker, of course. Why doesn't that surprise me? Well, they can stay at the police station until we find the hacker.
There was no reply from the others. Robbie was sending a text message on his mobile phone to his friends to say why he hadn't met them that afternoon. Joe was talking to Belinda.
Will you go out with me tonight, Belinda? There's a great hamburger place near here.
Belinda smiled at him.
But you're only 15, Joe. I'm too old for you.
I'm very mature for my age,
he replied quickly.
Come on, we'll have a fantastic time. I'll pay and...
Their conversation was interrupted by the hacker.
Congratulations, Henry. You've solved the second puzzle. I suppose Robbie helped you again. It's a pity those security guards aren't as intelligent as your son. They failed again, didn't they? Henry, there's still another puzzle to solve. If you solve it, you will discover my identity. I'll send the message later. First, you need to relax and cool down. Are you ready for a surprise? BFN.
A surprise? What does that mean, Mr. Williams?
Asked Belinda.
I have no idea, but I'm sure we'll soon find out.
replied her boss. All the staff had gone home at 5 o'clock as usual. The offices were silent. He was suddenly very tired. His eyes began to close. He was on holiday in the Caribbean. He was on the beach. It was hot and sunny. There were no clouds in the sky. It was too hot, so he went swimming in the sea to cool down. He was wet, very wet. Mr. Williams woke up. He was wet. Was it raining in his office? He heard Belinda's voice.
Mr. Williams, what's happening? I'm all wet. Where is the water coming from? My hair and clothes are ruined.
Mr. Williams answered.
This is our surprise, Belinda. Our friend the hacker has started the sprinkler system. Very funny. Let's get out of here.
They all ran out of the office and went downstairs. Joe tried to console Belinda, and Robbie wanted to know if he could go home.
Please, Dad, it's late, and I want to watch TV tonight.
Not yet,
replied his father.
We still have another puzzle to solve.
What do you mean, we, Dad? You haven't done anything yet,
replied his son sarcastically. Mr. Williams looked at his son, but he knew that Robbie was right. The boys had solved the first two puzzles. In the distance they heard a siren. Was it the police? Mr. Williams and Robbie went to the doors of the bank. Slowly, Mr. Williams opened the door.